Hello and welcome to another quick play and review of Castlevania ROMHack. This is Castlevania Chorus of Mysteries, made in 2007 by Optimon and Dr. Mario. Let's get started. Now, already we can see some very nice graphics of our main character going into the mountains. And because this actually does have a very interesting storyline, let me talk about it. This is Armand Dynasty in the year 1800, who is journeying to Romania to learn about the heritage of his family. Armed with a barbed whip, he is going to journey into Allrox's castle in the mountains. So, for this particular ROM hack, all of the graphics have been changed, just like in Holy Relics that Optimon worked on later on in his ROM hacking career. And we also have many new OSTs, including this one. And in fact, the entire ROM hack is full of new scores for us, which is amazing. So as far as the graphics, I'm really a big fan of how the geometry is for this particular room with those diagonals. It's really, really quite spooky. Not only do we have new graphics, new music, we also have new enemy types, as well as AI. Those jaguars on the that we face right there, those do not die. They just come back a little bit later. And one other thing is we have these kind of ramps in this area, which kind of feels like you're really climbing. That things are not so easy to do. These is not like Castlevania 1 where, you know, the stairs make everything so easy. But we're going to be grabbing our axe. And just like regular Castlevania 1, we'll be dealing with the giant bat initially, but we will also be seeing a lot of new bosses as well. The axe does a good amount of damage, and when the bat swoops down, you can hit him with that barbed whip quite a few times. So we've journeyed through the mountains, through this little kind of gate area, and now we're getting into Allrox's castle, which I'm a big fan of this kind of map strain, which really reminds you of Symphony of the Night. So moving on to this particular map, we have this kind of lovely OST with these chess pieces and the black and white background, which really, really works. I don't think I've seen something like this in a Castlevania ROM hack before, and it really, really does work. So using those 5 axes and 1 whip strike, kind of get through that first cycle. There's a lot of speedrun strats which I really try to incorporate in this run, and we'll be seeing a few of those coming up soon. So we have our triple shot axe. We're going to be using that for the next boss. And one other thing about these bosses, so the ghosts also have invulnerability frames that kind of just wait for you to attack them, but they have a particularly difficult hitbox. I think they're only vulnerable for a certain number of frames. So we're taking a boost through, and we have these little platforms. The second platform is actually much faster than the first, and if you start walking on it, then you actually get pushed to the back. So if you're on the very end of it, then you might die. So there's like one little cheeky thing about this particular room. And now we're getting into the quintessential part of every single Castlevania level 2, and that is the these spike traps. But this one's really interesting when you have that combination of stairs as well as the crusher. Quite good, quite good. Alright, so moving into this last screen, we have a couple more zombies to handle. We have these kind of une creatures which throw fireballs. Just grabbing a couple more hearts, because this next boss coming up really does need them. And for these bosses, I actually did do all of them without taking damage. So all of these bosses are actually quite fair. Doing a little bit of a whip buffer, and then here is Parasite Eye, who spawns in enemies in and kind of does a figure 8 pattern. But those axes absolutely crush him. And if you take a look at the retro achievements page for Castlevania Chorus of Mysteries, one of the achievements is to defeat this Parasite Eye without the axe, and it is actually quite challenging. Alright, moving into the next part of Olrox's castle. We got another lovely OST with this kind of like blue background with more ghosts, and we're going to be introduced to our favorite level 3 enemy, these birds. And we also have skeletons as well, with the red skeletons, which do not die, and these little green skeletons, which kind of, green's a nice color as it does complement Armin's design quite nicely. The one thing which I want to mention about this particular ROM hack is the random item table. So if you notice, there's a lot of places where we grab rosaries, and that's because it seems like the only actual item within the random item table is the rosary, which is good but also bad. It's good because you don't get a random sub-weapon drop, but also it also can trivialize some of the rooms. I'm a really big fan of these bone pillars, though, that you can shoot either on top or below, and you know, you can jump over them, and you're basically, once you get by them, you're free to go. Now here's a little speedrun strat where you can go up and down the stairs, and if you lose a few frames and start doing some jumps, you can skip that whole bottom room, which is very cool. And you could actually grab the triple shot from that skeleton, but because we were going a little bit slower, we can grab the triple shot a little bit earlier, and we're kind of good to go. So, man, because this is kind of a... Oh, there's a nice crit there. So we got hit by the fireball at the same time as we threw the whip. So, there we go. And we're gonna get ourselves some nice candle meat. And replenish our health. So, moving on through, using just a little couple of crosses to deal with these Medusa heads, as well as birds, and some skeletons. We get to see our third boss, Slagra, and well, he's certainly is a toughie. He's jumping all over the place. He's throwing fireballs. He kind of acts like Igor from Castlevania 1, just a little bit also, but he is quite tanky. But luckily, with those crosses, he goes down pretty quickly. And it's really great to see some of these Castlevania 4 bosses make it into a Castlevania 1 ROM hack. And with Slagra in this ROM hack, you would wonder what other boss we might see next. Alright, so moving into level 4, we get to see some more spooky music, and this river section does look good. But you're gonna see, at least for these backgrounds, they're kind of devoid of anything, and it's very very safe in that almost all of the backgrounds so far are just pure black. So one thing I was trying to do there is a skip to go into this kind of like bone section, and you can skip a couple of jumps towards the end here. Oh, we missed that, but maybe another day for a speedrun attempt. We can do that. Got some zombies. Now this is probably the first and only track, which I'm really not a huge fan of for this ROM hack. It doesn't feel quite, you know, it's not very spooky. It feels almost like an end credits theme, rather than something you'd have for a level. And for these enemies here, there's just these large ectoplasms that are kind of spawning these eyes, and there are so many of them in these next couple of screens. But luckily, because they have multiple health, they do sometimes drop big hearts, so you can kind of just grab those. And that little cheeky fleaman there. Alright, and we're gonna be destroying a couple more zombies, grabbing the meat, and we just have a couple more ectoplasms to go. And you can see those statues of Allrox in the background, kind of being, foreshadowing the next fight. So here's Gaibon throwing so many fireballs, very difficult to dodge. The cross is putting in some major work here. Just walk into the side lane, that boomerang come back. There we go. We're moving on out of level 4. And moving on to level 5, which is an interesting one indeed. Alrighty. Alright, heading into level 5, we do get this lovely demake of Dance of Pails, which is quite nice. It doesn't have the drumming that there is in Symphony of the Night, but I'm still a big fan of it, and it really does fit this library theme. So just trying to take a boost through this bone pillar, just to try to keep on walking forward. Lehman's being naughty, but the boomerang comes back. And in this particular level, there are a lot of meats. While this is kind of towards the end of Chorus of Mysteries, to talk about kind of the difficulty factor, we're trying to go fast here, but there's another sub-weapon that you could have taken throughout, which is called the Laurels, which is basically a potion, and you can use it at any time. And if you want to go through this ROMHack kind of slowly, but very safely, the Laurels is definitely a great pick. But otherwise, the boomerang, the axe, the knife, all of those weapons are unchanged. So there's no actual pits in level 5, and so kind of the difficulty factor comes in where there's a lot of enemies, like these boomerang knights, who just happen to have... They don't even have as much health as the axe knights in Castlevania 1. So this level by itself is actually much easier than the previous ones, but at the same time, the boss coming up is incredibly tough. So it almost balances itself out and leaves you in a false sense of security. Alright, moving on into this next area. So far we've collected 2 meats, and there's going to be another one that's on that right side of the screen. But because we have so much health already, we're already at full, we don't need to grab it in this case. And we're just grabbing all the hearts that we can, because the boss coming up absolutely needs them. Alright, getting rid of that last Une, and we're going on. We're going to be meeting our host, Allrox here. So he follows you and he throws multiple boomerangs, and then becomes his second form, which is very scary. Luckily, those boomerangs make a very good shield against his fireballs. Got a little bit of a paw glitch there, trying to throw a boomerang while holding up. There we go. Not too bad. So, defeating Allrox here, we're going to be moving on to the 6th and final level. And this is our obligatory clock tower stage, which has kind of a Castlevania 3 theme. This track is not very long, but it is very spooky, and it certainly fits the theme. So one thing to mention here is that since level 5, it still follows the same health rules as Castlevania 1, and you only can really take 4 hits until you are dead. So these Medusa heads are incredibly scary. And one other thing which is kind of strange with the health bar is the second hit that you take a ton of damage. So even another meat isn't going to fill your health quite up. So you want to grab all of the hearts that you can going through this section, for the final boss. But there's a ton of Medusa heads to handle here, and bone skeletons and just regular skeletons. Now, that's kind of the theme as that we make this final climb to our final boss. Just wrapping around, not taking these candles, since that skeleton can hit you from underneath the floorboard. That is a pretty tough jump there. And luckily we have that boomerang to take out the skeleton. And we're moving on to the very end. So if you don't have a sub-weapon at this point, you can grab the axe, which is in that middle candle. But luckily we do have the cross, and the cross absolutely rips through this final boss, which happens to be death. So I think 28 hearts is a little bit much. You don't need quite so many here, but happy to have them. And there is even holy water in that candle on the left, just like in Castlevania 1. And yep, death is on the ground and is just taking up space. These sights are in a very are in the same pattern as they are in Castlevania 1, but they do move a little bit quicker. But with some well-placed crosses, there we go, and that is the end of Chorus of Mysteries. But we will learn that Death was actually the character who put Grant and Nasty in the clock tower in Castlevania 3 in the first place, and changed him into his monstrous form, which really is a nice take back to Castlevania 3. You get to see our protagonists watch the Allrox's castle crumble, and man, this was an amazing ROM hack to play through. And the fact that this came out 10 years before Holy Relics, you know, this one is, I still think, one of the best ROM hacks, not only for Castlevania, but also on the NES. And it was a real pleasure to play through this one. And we might be seeing some speedruns of this one in the future. So if you liked this video of Chorus of Mysteries, do like this video and subscribe to the channel, where we will be doing more Castlevania ROM hack playthroughs and reviews in the future. Have a great day.